What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie? What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie? What's the Word on That Movie can be found on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. Other platforms coming soon as well as video. Twitter handle is at What's the Word on 2. First letters of each word capitalized, and yes, that is the number 2. Instagram is What's the Word on That Movie, all lowercase, no spaces. And Snapchat is What's the Word on That Movie. What's has an apostrophe S, and the first letter of each word is capitalized. And each word is spaced out or try Lawrence Media 1, all lowercase, no spacing. And yes, that is the number 1. YouTube is What's the Word on That Movie. Each word is spaced out with caps at the beginning of each word, and What's has the apostrophe S. Let's get to it. Welcome to What's the Word on That Movie podcast play-by-play. On this episode, I am discussing Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey opens in the future San Dimas 2691 AD. A man is speaking about Bill and Ted reaching their second crucial turning point. Much like their history project, if they did not succeed, the future will be changed, and this man intends to intervene to stop them from succeeding. Still in the future, we are now at Bill and Ted University. In a classroom, we see Rufus return in the time booth, bringing with him from the past some significant figures to present to his class. After class, Rufus reminds his students to study while wearing their headphones. A future where you are encouraged to not do your homework without wearing headphones is a utopia. As a kid, I was always told to find a nice quiet place without any distraction. What a bummer. While Rufus is talking to his students, he is disrupted by the guy at the opening of the movie. The guy's name is the Anomalous and was Rufus's teacher. Rufus was his prize student. Rufus mentions to the Anomalous that everyone believed him to be dead. The Anomalous mentions he was only secluding himself and hashing out his plan to change the future by stopping Bill and Ted, and now is his time. He has created robots that look like Bill and Ted and intends to send them back in time to kill the real Bill and Ted. He enacts his plan then and there. However, he didn't plan on Rufus being able to interfere. The robots take the time booth and travel back in time. Rufus hitches a ride. After that, we get the real Bill and Ted auditioning for the Battle of the Bands. They completely suck, but are allowed to be part of the show given who they work for. Only catch is they must go on last. We then cut to a party in which we learn that it's not too late for Bill, Ted, and the princesses to go to military school. We also learn Missy has divorced Bill's dad and married Ted's dad. The princesses say maybe she will marry you next, Ted. Bill laughs and says, yeah, then you will be your own stepdad, right after we get a scene with the boys asking the princesses to marry them. And the girls agree to marry the boys. Ladies, does the ring actually matter when it comes to size? Because these guys give their girls some Cracker Jack rings and the girls are happy with it. Then we get the arrival of the evil Bill and Ted robots at the Circle K. They attempt to land the time booth on a stray cat but miss. Reporting back to the Anomalous, they say they have lost Rufus in the circuits of time, which means he is lost forever. Their mission is to ruin the boys' performance. They call Bill and Ted, mimicking the princesses' voices, and break up with them. They tell them they are going to the desert to be alone and to not follow. We see the boys heartbroken, drinking Pepsi and trying to figure out what to do. This is when the evil robots arrive and offer advice. They ask the boys to come with them. They will show them how to fix their current problems. Ted pulls Bill aside and says he has a bad feeling about this, but Bill shrugs his concerns. They load up the Wild Stallion's van and head to the desert. The evil robots are very mean to the boys on the ride. Ted reiterates to Bill he has a bad feeling. Arriving in the desert, the evil robots expose themselves to Bill and Ted, showing them they are robots and they are going to kill Bill and Ted. This is when we first hear the words bogus. The evil robots lead the boys up a large rock formation and push them over the side and hack up some big loogies to leave the boys as a parting gift. The evil robots depart and bag a Porsche for their ride. Bill and Ted awake to only discover they are dead. Death appears, but they trick him by telling him his shoelaces are untied, and as he looks down, they Melvin him, meaning they give him a gut-wrenching wedgie. They then head back to San Dimas, which is a 50-mile trek for the boys. Getting back, they find the Porsche outside their apartment. The girls are being harassed by the evil robots. This leads to the girls giving back the rings and refusing to play in the Battle of the Bands. The boys head to the police station in order to get help in stopping the robot versions of themselves. Ted possesses his dad's body and alerts the officers of what has happened to the boys. But the officers don't believe him. Bill possesses the sergeant's body and supports Ted's statement, but that doesn't work either. The boys must find someone who will believe them. Arriving at Ted's house, the boys come to find Missy is having some friends over for a seance. The boys pop in during a summoning and begin explaining their story, but Missy takes what they are saying as coming from evil spirits and summons the boys to hell. The boys begin what seems to be an endless plummet into darkness. On their fall, the boys choose to play 20 questions before they hit the bottom. The boys are completely upset with how hell looks as it doesn't match their rock album covers. They get the devil's attention by giving him the sign of the devil. They talk with the devil asking if they can go back to their lives. He obliges and says, "You may go," but tricks them and sends them into a maze of doors in which the boys must pick their eternal hell. The boys pick a room and find in it Colonel Oates. He informs them they're to do infinity push-ups. The boys escape the room and then decide it might be safer to choose separate rooms so they can't be tortured as bad. It's never a good idea in a bad situation to split up, guys. Come on. Ted has to face the Easter Bunny. Bill has to face his very old grandmother kissing him. They once again escape their rooms, and having to decide their eternity, they refuse, and the devil sends all fears at the boys. At this point, the boys feel it's probably best if they play the Reaper card, and they summon the Reaper. The Reaper appears and tells them to choose their game, but if they lose, it's back to hell. They beat him in the game of Battleship, but the Reaper then makes it best 2 out of 3. They beat him in Clue, but then the Reaper makes it best 3 out of 5. They beat him in football, but he says best out of 7. They beat him in Twister, and he finally gives and allows the boys to return back to the world of the living. Before returning, the boys enlist him in helping them find someone to help them with getting rid of the evil robots. This takes the boys on a trip to heaven to find the perfect being to help them. In heaven, they mug 3 people. They get to talk to God, and God responds back, pointing them to the ones that can help them. Back on Earth, the evil robots are trashing the boys' apartment and goofing around, causing mayhem. Back on Earth, the boys are alive and are joined by Station and Death. They must go back to town and warn the princesses and then build good robots of themselves. Cutting to the evil robots, they are heading to kidnap the girls. Back to Bill and Ted, the boys are carrying out their plan, stopping by the hardware store and asking Station to get what they need to make the robots. The boys in turn are attempting to call the girls. They reach the evil robots, who get excited. The boys are back from the dead because that means they get to kill them again. The boys tell them they will be ready this time. Leaving the hardware store, Station merges into one being to increase brain power and focus. After merging, Station builds robots in the back of the van as the boys drive to the Battle of the Bands concert. At the Battle of the Bands, the evil robots have tied the princesses to the rafters and are planning to totally kill them after their performance. The boys arrive to the concert and enact their own plan. The evil robots come out bashing the crowd, but Bill and Ted appear, throwing a wrench in it all. The good robots are brought out, and evil Bill and Ted are destroyed. The crowd is going wild as they believe it's all a part of the performance. Station lures the babes and they celebrate, but not for long, as the anomalous appears, planning to take care of the boys himself. In doing so, he takes control of every satellite across the world and broadcasts the event on every channel. The boys play the time game to outwit the anomalous, but he shows he can play the game too. However, he forgets one thing: only the winners can go back and set things up. The anomalous is arrested after being Melvined by Death. We learn that Rufus had disguised himself as the lady who held the auditions for the Battle of the Bands. The boys then time travel to get some much needed practice before returning and performing live to the entire world. They return older and with a baby apiece. The anomalous, actually an attempt to change the future, made it easier for the boys to reach the masses with their music. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it was a big part of my childhood, and God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Kiss is one of the greatest songs of all time. As the movie goes off, we see all the headlines the Wild Stallions make and accolades they receive after their performance. We even see the breakup of the band as Death goes solo, but eventually returns back to the band after getting caught in a lip sync scandal. Missy is set to marry the Anomalous. Thanks once again for tuning in to What's the Word on That Movie podcast play-by-play. I am your host, your voice, Daniel Lawrence, and I will see you next time. What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie? What's the word? 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 What's the word on that movie?